Hi, everyone. I know it's probably poor lighting behind me, but that's okay. You don't need to see me. You need to learn about the Enlightenment. So here's a fourth video about it. Now, something we didn't talk much about so far was absolutism. That's prior to and then during the Enlightenment, the way of Western civilization, as far as governments were concerned, they were basically ruled with absolutism, which means you have a king or queen, something like that, and they hold absolute power, right? There's no democracies, things like that. And how do they hold absolute power? Well, the idea is that they were given this divine right of kings. Divine, think heavenly, God, right? So God gave them this right to rule over people. And you didn't really question it back then. But now you have the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment, and people are questioning things, and they're trying to figure out the ways that work best using reason, using logic, and they're like, this doesn't sound as good as you once made it seem. I'm not so sure about this. So they now, take reason and logic to try to answer the question, who should run the government? And you have a lot of different people giving their take on this. What is the best way for government to run? Excuse me. So you have some people that think, a monarch, that's who should run the government. Others say, no, a parliament or some sort of legislative body should run the government. Other people are like, no, the people should run it, like maybe our town musicians. Maybe it should be a combination of two or three, right? What way works best? So a little background. In 1641, a civil war broke out in England. It's like 1641, 1642, lasted to about 1651. And basically you have the Roundheads and the Cavaliers. You have people that think the king should run the government and people that think the parliament should run the government. And people were running around and getting their heads chopped off about this. So what was the result? Who won? Well, the result basically was that King Charles had his head chopped off. So put that in some perspective. Now it's Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes wrote a book in 1651 that defended the absolute rule of kings. He said, hey, guys, slow down here. Having a king in charge is not so bad as it may seem. Let me explain to you why. Because, we have this idea that in nature, everyone is born equal. And I agree with you. That's totally true. Everyone's born equal. But you're out there in the world, right? Think of like these primal cavemen and women out there. Everyone's equal. Well, what's going to happen is that you need to do what you need to do to survive. If you don't have anything to eat and they do, you need to take it from them. If you need access to this water, but someone else is there, you need to find a way to get it from them, right? So you need to do whatever you have to do to survive, equal or not. So because of that, because of always trying to survive, your life is spent solitary, these are his words, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Doesn't really make life seem too wonderful, does it, right? It is not like a good situation. So how can we make this better? Well, keep in mind, in nature, there's no laws about how to impose order. Like there's no the clouds aren't written like, share the vegetables in the forest, right? There's no laws. So someone needs to create laws and enforce it. So people can create some sort of supreme power to impose peace. Sometimes that could be good. Sometimes, as history has shown, it's been not so good. And he wrote about this social contract we've already mentioned from Rousseau. And he said this is an implied agreement. The idea is that a king is the best, right? Because a king can keep order. The social contract is between the people. And the people decide, hey, we need this king, this monarch, whoever, to impose order so that our life is not short and nasty and poor and brutish and all those awful things. Now, he said that it's between the people, not the people and the king. So there's no need ever to revolt against the king. So this whole Civil War thing and killing King Charles, that's ridiculous. He's not a fan. So that's Hobbes. Now, what about others? What about Locke? Now, we've already mentioned John Locke when it comes to the tabula rasa. But what is his take on human nature? So he was born in 1632, shortly before the English Civil War. So I'm sure that shaped a little bit of his thinking as well. When it came to the Glorious Revolution of 1685, which you don't know about yet, and I'll give you some background in class, he sided with Parliament. So we know right away he's already taking the opposite position of Hobbes. In 1690, he wrote 2 treatises on government. We mentioned about that in class. And he did agree with Hobbes in some things. He said, you know what, nature is harsh. It's really not easy just to go out there and live in the wilderness with other humans who want to take your food or want your access to water or want your deer hides because it makes really cool moccasins, right? So we need a social contract to preserve order so that life is not nasty and brutish and short and whatnot. So he also believed in natural rights. This is the big like lights, fireworks, part of the Enlightenment. This is the big thing that you see that's important to our government in terms of the Enlightenment. He believed that everyone is born with the right to life, liberty, and property. And nature gives them these rights, right? Not your government, nature or God or whoever gives you these rights. And they should never be given up. These rights are inalienable, means you can never surrender them. Therefore, your king should not be giving you your rights. Your king should just be protecting your rights. Your parliament, whoever's in charge, should just be protecting your rights. And he said, but you know what? The social contract is also between the people and the king, whoever the sovereign power is, which means if the social contract is broken and that king, that sovereign is not respecting your rights, that people have the right to revolt. The people have the right to then establish a new government where their rights would be protected. This should sound really familiar to you. If you ever have, which I'm sure you have, read the Declaration of Independence. Okay, that's like the opening lines. Because remember, we're like, hey, England, you're not respecting our rights, so we have the right, therefore, to revolt and establish a new government because you broke the social contract. Okay? When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds, right, which have connected them. Because human events, you're not protecting the social contract, you're not protecting our rights, we have the right to revolt. Right? We also believe that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator, so nature or God, with certain unalienable rights, which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Is that property? That's a whole other discussion. So like Locke is all over our government. Okay? He thought government should make decisions that promote the public good. The government should govern lightly, so like not get involved in things unless they really have to. And he favored a representative government where people choose people who then do on their interests, right? So then you can see how he sided with Parliament. He thought voting then would be important. Montesquieu, we mentioned him with the three branches of government, but how did he take this whole part of human nature? He thought in the state of nature, people weren't warlike. He says people are fearful because like it's crazy out there. So we don't want violence. We don't want war. So we need to work together, right? And to make life not brutish and short. We need to live in society because we need food, right? We need to like grow things together and hunt things together. If we don't live together, then life is unequal. Then life is war. So he says state of war is really among people and nations. And that state of war is what leads to laws and government. So why do we have laws and government? Is because we're in a state of war. Hobbes probably would agree with a lot of that. And that the government's job was to maintain law and order. Rousseau, we mentioned him a lot as well. He thought man was naturally good, but it was society that corrupted him. We've discussed this already. The social contract, which we mentioned his opinion on, he also thought it was like a fraud by rich people. Like rich people are going to like take advantage of common person's freedoms. And they're like, oh, but like, you can give up these freedoms and I'll protect you and or whatever. And it always seemed to work out to their advantage, not to the common person. People should never be forced to give up natural rights to a king. So very anti-king here. Rights should never be given up, and that power must rest with the people. So he actually would think that like instead of us voting for a legislative body, that like every person should vote on every decision. Now with a big country, we see how that's not practical, but that's like the idea of how to get people, power being with the people. All right, so this is a really quick overview. We'll go over in detail more of this in class. If you have any questions, please bring them with you. And it's the end of this part of the unit. So almost quiz time. Isn't that exciting? All right, have a good day, and I'll see you soon. It's nice chatting with you guys.